Casey Anthony's defense attorney is here, and for the first time, Jose Baez is answering your questions about her and the trial. What do you want to know? We are live tonight, so let's get started. Okay, welcome to the program. A reminder that we are live tonight, and I'm here with Casey Anthony's defense attorney, Jose Baez. He just announced he is writing a tell-all book about the trial. It comes out in July. It is called Presumed Guilty, Casey Anthony, The Inside Story. That's exciting, but what is more exciting tonight is he is taking your calls. I've been watching you guys sound off online for so long with lots of opinions. Now the man is sitting next to me. You can call us at 1-855-Dr.Drew5. So, Jose, while we wait for some calls to line up here, I've got a bunch of questions for you. Tell me something in the book that's going to be surprising to people.
I think what's going to be surprising is pretty much everything cover to cover. And the reason for that is that my point of view has never been out there. The book is written from a perspective of how I came into the case, and as the case developed, things that I saw, things that I thought, and
give me
none
one
of that.
shred of what's going to shock me when I open. I'd say open the book to the middle. What's going to stun me?
What's going to shock you is how much you don't know about the Casey Anthony case.
Don't know in the sense of explaining it away or making us even more concerned about Casey?
No, I think there's no explaining things away. I see this piece of evidence, this is what I'm thinking. There are certain pieces of evidence that never made it to trial, never made it in the discovery, that I think were significant. For various reasons, we didn't present certain things, and for various reasons, a lot was not made public. And I think this is the first time, if people are interested in this case, they're going to be able to read this book and get a complete different perspective, as well as information that they just didn't know.
It's hard for me to believe that people are going to change their opinion about Casey. They've really vilified her. People seem to get very angry with you for throwing George under the bus. Are they going to see evidence as to why you chose to take that position with George?
Yes, they're going to see what we learned, when we learned it.
About George and sexual abuse?
About everything. Not just, I mean, what bothered me about this whole case is several things. But one of the things that still bothers me today is I never thought, and I realize for the general public who's not involved in the legal system, they look at this case as, look at her behavior. And
then they stop. By the way, then they're guilty.
Correct.
Bad news.
Correct. Yeah. So, this case was never about Casey's behavior. It was about how Kaylee died. And it was never, we would have never had the opportunity to put on our defense if that behavior was not made relevant. And let me be more specific. June 16th, Kaylee died. So what happened after that is really irrelevant.
The cover-up is what made it. But by the way, when somebody lies and lies, the one thing we know about Casey, liar. That's the only thing we know for sure about her. For sure. You're not going to tell me that she's not.
My point is, under the law, unless there is evidence of someone fleeing or consciousness of guilt, all of that stuff is irrelevant. So in order for us to explain her behavior, a lot of this evidence that really had nothing to do with how Kaylee died had to be admitted. And that's why I think the case ended up becoming what it was. If this was a straight up murder case like every other case, there would have been evidence of a murder. There was no evidence of a murder, and that's why the case became what it became, a speculation spectacle.
Based on the mom's, suspect is the kindest word I can use, behavior subsequent to the death.
She didn't act right. She didn't act the way you would normally.
Stop there. She didn't act right. I think we would agree on that one. I said what's exciting tonight is we're going to let the viewers talk to you, so let's take some calls. We're going to go out to Michelle in Arizona first. Michelle.
Hi, Dr. Drew.
Hey, Michelle.
Jose, my question is, do you feel any guilt at all saying that George Anthony sexually abused Casey with no evidence backing that up? And do you even really believe that happened yourself?
Well, that's a good question. I will tell you this. We presented our case in a complete and ethical manner. I think
that means you had evidence.
Absolutely. And I think what people misunderstand when they say you didn't present any evidence of sexual abuse, this was not a case about sexual abuse.
Understood.
And the defense, what a lot of people misunderstand about a trial is that it's not a two-sided affair. One side does not have to prove anything, and that is the defense. Our role as advocates is to create reasonable doubt, to poke holes, and to put the evidence to its strongest test. And as we were able to expose, this evidence not only wasn't there, it never was there, it was a fantasy. And, we put on evidence that is circumstantial evidence that I felt a jury could believe or not believe of sexual abuse. Now, let me give you a couple examples of that.
Because I'm going to interrupt you a little bit and say I want to get to as many calls as we can, so
sure.
Go ahead.
The jury was free to believe George Anthony or not. I cross-examined him on that question.
On the sexual
abuse questions, and by his reaction, they could believe it or not. Just as if Casey had taken the stand, they would have had the right to believe her or not. Mm-hmm. So this is evidence of either abuse or non-abuse. That was for the jury to decide, which were the sole fact finders in the case. Plus, there were other pieces of evidence that I can later on.
That'll be in the book.
Correct.
About the sexual abuse.
Correct.
Want to give me a little hint?
You have to wait for it.
Okay, Kathleen in Florida, go right ahead. Kathleen.
Yes, hi, Dr. Drew. My question is to Jose. How could you present the story about the drowning and believe that when Casey had lied about everything else before that?
So why believe Casey if she told you that drowning story? I think is really what.
Right. No, it's understandable. There were evidence. What we did was, we, again, not having and not being required to present anything, there are things to remember. June 16th, the day Kaylee died, the ladder was found up on the pool. That was a very rare event. The very following day, Cindy Anthony went to work and discussed with her coworkers about the ladder being up. You can look at that as a coincidence, or you can look at that as evidence of a possibility that Kaylee had been in the pool. Mm-hmm. There was also evidence presented that Kaylee loved to swim. That summer, she had gone swimming almost every day.
There's some pictures of this right now we're looking at. Okay.
George testified that Kaylee would wake him up and say, "Jojo, swim, Jojo, swim." There was also the issue with, could she get out of the house? And as you saw, we presented a photo of her actually opening the sliding glass door, which led to the pool. So there was evidence presented of a possibility of drowning. And I would back this up by saying, if you recall, one of the jurors after the trial came out and said, the conclusion of a drowning was a lot easier for us to reach than it was that she was chloroformed possibly, or if not chloroformed, suffocated by duct tape or different things like that. So, if you can take an analytical approach to the evidence, you might reach different conclusions, or you might reach the same conclusion. And I think what I try to do with the book is I try to put it out there.
All of it.
All of it. And if you reach the conclusion that, that Kaylee died by a drowning, you reach that conclusion. If you're still not convinced, you're certainly entitled to that opinion as well.
So one more call before we go to break. Bex in New York. Go ahead, Bex.
Hi, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Baez, do you think that Casey Anthony is mentally ill? I mean, with her history of partying, the fabrication of the nanny, it seems obvious to me that she has mental issues.
Well, she said two different things, mental issues and mental illness. You can pick one or the other.
Well, I've said a million times, I'm not a mental health professional, but what I think we did do and what we were trying to do is put on the fact that there were some issues here, not only with Casey, but with the entire family, and that really had some serious questionable behavior. To get up to work, to get up, get dressed, pretend to go to a job that you didn't have for 2 years.
That's incredible.
It's phenomenal.
And the lying to the investigators, that was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
And here's my question, Drew. What really stunned me, and this I will tell you that is in the book, what really stunned me was when she went down the Universal Studios.
That was incredible.
Made a left and went down the hallway, and then all of a sudden said, okay, I don't work here. I think that's when a critical mistake was made by law enforcement. I think that they should have realized at that point in time that we're dealing with something that's a little bit beyond our control. And maybe we should have someone come in here and speak to her.
And make an assessment of her mental health?
Absolutely.
Well, what they went to then was sort of, now you have an opportunity to be honest with us. Now our instincts are correct. Remember all those taped interviews they did?
I remember. And no, what it was they then took her into a conference room, and they went at her good cop, bad cop, old school style. And I don't think you can deal with people that way, especially in the criminal field, where a majority of cops know this. A majority of the people they deal with either have mental health issues or they have drug and alcohol issues. There are very few people in the criminal justice system who commit crimes because they want to.
Well, there's psychopathy, which is the sort of, born with kind of a brain problem kind of thing.
So why not take police work into the 21st century, and why not take a more of an intellectual approach than opposed to let's throw the handcuffs on her, lock her up, and force it out of her. Okay. And I think that was a huge mistake.
We got to take a break. We got a ton more calls. Again, the number is 855-373-7395. Jose, I know they're going to need me to be a little tougher on you, I think. My viewers are going to get tough on me. Let's quickly go to Mark in Florida before we go to break. Mark, what's your question? And we'll go to break before we get to it.
Hi, Dr. Drew. I'm a big fan of the show. I do have a question for Jose.
Okay, wait. I recognize your voice. Is that Mark Eiglarsh?
Hey, guys.
Mark Eiglarsh. Okay, you've got a question for Jose. Mark, sit tight. Viewers, sit tight. Jose, sit tight. We'll be right back after this.